Today on Hot Route Takes, we're doing our first official mock draft after getting some combine numbers from the previous week. We're going to go ahead and do the mock. I'm doing odds and Christian's doing evens. Anyone stand out to you in the combine before we get started, Christian?
Yeah, we've been hearing a lot of this tight end talk, and Darnell Washington out of Georgia really surprised me. I know the production in Georgia wasn't there, but this dude's a monster, 6'7", 265, and that's another offensive lineman on the tight end position right there.
Yeah. Darnell Washington, he's a freak, man.
Anybody stood out to you, Brian?
Yeah, I think Nolan Smith, two Georgia guys, obviously. The Georgia showed out at the combine. Nolan Smith clocked a 4.3940. That's pretty impressive, man. So glad to see some of these Georgia guys showing out the combine. Anyone kind of disappoint?
Yeah, believe it or not, Will Levis kind of disappointed me. I was kind of big on Will Levis, and kind of just, the other quarterbacks just did better at the combine. I understand the combine isn't everything, but that was kind of Will Levis' moment to kind of show, hey, I didn't have the right weapons, kind of the excuses we've been hearing out of Kentucky. He kind of didn't perform maybe how he wanted to at the combine.
You would think in a setting like that, the guy that has the biggest arm out there would look the best, and he didn't. He didn't. But I think a guy that kind of underwhelmed was, in general, the entire receiver class. That no one really stood out. I think Quentin Johnson kind of might have separated himself a little bit from the other guys because he had a pretty good showing. But Jordan Addison ran a little bit slow for his size and stature. And Kayshon Boutte has been falling down draft boards for numerous reasons, and he didn't help himself at the combine either, even clocking at a 4.7 on his first run. He did clear that up with a 4.5, but guys are definitely looking at that still. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this mock draft. I have the first pick, and we have a trade. Chicago traded down from their pick with the Indianapolis Colts. We're not going to get into the specifics of the draft picks and everything like that, because here the thing with a trade, you never know. It depends on the market. If several teams are trying to trade up, it could be a bunch of picks that get traded. If it's just one team trying to trade up, it could only end up being a first and a second. We've seen that before in previous drafts as well. So it just kind of depends how many teams have fell in love with a certain quarterback. But we have Chicago dropping out of 4. Indianapolis is coming up to 1 to get their quarterback, their guy, the player of the future, and that is Bryce Young. So I'm going to draft Bryce Young. I think he's going to go in. He's going to be their starter. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the move. I wouldn't do it. I think Bryce Young's a little too small, especially to be trading up and drafting. But their GM has came out and said, or talked about it a little bit, and seems to be interested in Bryce Young. And they've been swinging and missing for too long. It's time for them to kind of nail down that quarterback position. I think Bryce Young could be that guy. I'm not as high on him as some other guys, but he is definitely the consensus QB1 in this class. Christian?
Yeah, if I'm Houston, I'd like him not to go quarterback, but this quarterback class is kind of, a lot of people wasn't so high on it, but a couple of these guys have shown out at this point, and I'm Houston. I'm okay with you going Bryce Young. I'm rushing to the podium and going to get C.J. Stroud. At the combine and even this year, he has one of the prettiest releases we've seen this year out of this class, to me at least.
Yeah, I think that is QB1 for a lot of people, and I think it makes sense. I think he's the most NFL ready. I'm Houston. I'm still not taking a quarterback, but this is a little bit more predictive than it is, than what we would do. But I definitely understand that. Mr. C.J. Stroud to the Houston Texans. So I'm on the clock with Arizona Cardinals. This is a tricky one because they're under new management. Previously, they would draft a defensive player that was almost positionless because that's what they like to do. And I don't really know what they would do now. Picking Will Anderson kind of scares me a little bit. I think they'll go away from this positionless defensive unit that they were trying to go for with new management. But Will Anderson kind of is a player that kind of needs that specific role. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But he's an edge player who rushes after the quarterback and plays the run. He's not a guy that's going to be dropping into zones. So that scares me a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and just go with Jalen Carter to the Cardinals. Granted. Jalen Carter's future is a little bit, questionable right now. We don't know exactly what will happen, but he did go back to the combine. Things didn't seem overly serious. I think he'll end up playing in the NFL. So the Cardinals are not, ready to compete this year anyway. So they can take a chance on something like that. So I'm going to go Jalen Carter to the Arizona Cardinals.
All right, well, I have the Bears at 4. I mean, honestly, I think the Bears, even at this point, might get some phone calls, and maybe they'll trade this 4th pick, but just an R thing. We don't really know, and I don't want to keep, trading and making y'all wait on this Bears pick. So, I'm tempted, to be honest with you, Brian. Tariq Wilson kind of is a guy I'm eyeballing here for Chicago. You can kind of, I think I'm reaching, but I know Will Anderson is there. I mean, at this point with Chicago, you have to go best player. So I'm definitely going to go Will Anderson, but I think Tariq Wilson kind of, showed us a little bit at the combine, and I understand, where he's playing Texas Tech kind of ain't that big of a thing, but Will Anderson's the best player on the board. You're Chicago at this point rebuilding. You have the cap. You go get Will Anderson. So I'm going Will Anderson 4.
Yeah, I completely agree. Being able to trade down a couple spots, accumulate some extra draft picks, and land a blue chip defensive talent like Will Anderson, I think that's a banging start for the Chicago Bears starting off this draft. And I got the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. And Seattle, I don't think they go quarterback here. I think they roll with Geno next year and maybe shore up this D-line a little bit. Like Christian was talking about, Tyree Wilson, this is a guy that can maybe play 3-tech, can play out on the edge. They need to shore up that defense a little bit, and this is a dynamic guy right here, and I think he could be a change to this defense. So Tyree Wilson, edge out of Texas Tech to the Seattle Seahawks.
I got you. I have Detroit next. I think Detroit, believe it or not, I'm leaning corner here. I think they need help in the corner position. They've, all about their defense with him. And I think, honestly, non-quarterback wise, the best player on the board is Christian Christian out of Oregon. I mean, that's the best corner in this draft. He showed out at the combine, and he's a very physical corner. And I think that's kind of a missing piece Detroit needs, and definitely if Aaron comes back in that division and just in general, if they want to make the run and keep building this team, they're going to need a lockdown corner. So I'm going Christian out of Oregon.
Yeah, Christian Gonzalez, good player, good all-around player, play man and zone. He's freakishly athletic, and he's long. I think he's really one of those do-it-all corners that could be a game changer for a lot of teams. So Christian Gonzalez, the Detroit Lions. I'm on the clock with the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think that this is a quarterback spot. Nah, you don't think so, Christian?
I do, but there's not really any veterans out. There's better quarterbacks in my eyes that they can go in this draft than veteran. I mean, we've seen enough of Jimmy G. We've seen, I think, the guys, Jameis Winston. A lot of these guys ain't fits for, I think, Raiders in general, other than Jimmy G. So I think, yeah, you're probably right taking a quarterback here. I
think, man, the Raiders, their coaching staff, I think there is a player in this draft that I think they could fall in love with. And I don't like him, but I think they like him. I think that's Will Levis.
Yeah.
Will Levis to the Las Vegas Raiders. So lock that in.
I'm at 8 with Atlanta. So this one might surprise a lot of people. I mean, there's some quarterbacks out here for Atlanta, but Paris Johnson Jr. out of Ohio State, offensive tackle. I think what we've seen this last year, they want to run the ball in Atlanta. And if they do somehow get in this Lamar, maybe they won't have this pick, but if they can somehow pull off getting Lamar and having this pick, but either way, I just think Atlanta, how far the rebuild is coming, you go offensive line, get your offensive line set up. Paris Johnson's a monster out of Ohio State. He's, a monster. So I think Atlanta, offensive line, Paris Johnson Jr., Ohio State.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a good fit for Atlanta. They do want to run the ball, and they're losing, I believe, the right guard Lindstrom. So, and he's a player. What's his name? Having a moment here. Paris Johnson. He's a guy who can play inside and outside guard and tackle, and he's also pretty scheme diverse. He can play the gap power really well, and you can also get out in zone. So I think he's a good fit for Atlanta. I know Carolina must have been shaking in their boots, thinking they were going to take a quarterback, and then they were going to be left again without a quarterback. But here we are. Carolina at 9, and they might get the steal of the draft here. And quarterback Anthony Richardson, dynamic player. His combine would dictate that he went number 1. He outstanding physical profile at 6'4", 245 pounds, had a 40-inch vert, ran a 4.45 40. I mean, this guy's a freak. And I think if he can piece it together, Carolina's going to have a steal, man. So Anthony Richardson to the Carolina Panthers.
Okay. I'm at 10 with the Eagles, and at this moment, James Bradbury's more than likely out of this building. So I'm going corner here. And Devin Witherspoon, the size, he does lack. He's 6 foot, 180, but this dude, he plays big. I mean, some of the hits he laid in college, he's taking guys out.
Yeah.
In Atlanta, the Eagles, my bad, needs another corner with James Bradbury going out. And this team is going to have to start thinking about paying a bunch of these guys that they have in there right now. So they're going to have to go cheap somewhere. Now, I think you go cheap till you have this top 10 pick in Devin Witherspoon. So I'm going Devin Witherspoon for the Eagles.
Yeah, I like that pick too. Perfect shoe-in fit for Bradbury. I got Tennessee at 11. And Tennessee is a team, they came out today and put Derrick Henry on the trade block, which is a whoo. So that kind of shows their hand a little bit. It looks like they'll probably tear everything down and restart. That being said, I can see them taking an offensive line player here. I don't think they would take a receiver. They could take a potentially an edge player. However, I'm going to go with edge Miles Murphy. I think he is honestly just the best player on the board. So I'm going to go with him to the Tennessee Titans.
All right, well, I'm going to ask you a question real quick about Tennessee. With Bijan Robinson, people are high on. You trade that running back out. Do you even think about drafting BJ, or you just
Bijan
bigger
Robinson?
Things out there you need?
Well, if I'm in rebuild mode,
I agree. Yeah.
I'm not going to draft a running back because running backs, lifespans in the NFL are only so long. By the time Tennessee was to get competitive again, we're talking about B.J. Robinson's third, fourth season. He's already got 2 full seasons of just being ran into the dirt in Tennessee. So I don't think you take a running back till your team is ready. That's just kind of how I feel about it. I also just don't, in general, like taking running backs in the first round. But Bijan Robinson is a special talent, but I don't think he's a good fit for Tennessee at this moment in time.
I got you. Well, I'm back on the clock with Houston again. I drafted C.J. Stroud. I think you go quarterback. You team him up with a wide receiver. I really do. I think Quentin Johnson out of TCU. I like the size of this guy. He averaged 22.1 yards per catch. And like Brian said, he showed out at the combine. So I think, this is a big guy they need, and I think in Houston, you get a quarterback and a wide receiver. That's going to get your fan base pretty excited. 6'4", 212, big guy. I understand he played in the Big 12, and then when they played Georgia, it kind of looked bad for him. But, this guy put up numbers this year with TCU and kind of helped them kind of be that college force they were. To Houston, to go quarterback and wide receiver, I love it.
Cool. I understand that. I completely understand going that direction, getting a quarterback and teaming up with a young receiver so he can kind of build that chemistry with them and just help the quarterback develop. I got the New York Jets at 13, and I think the Jets need to shore up this offensive line a little bit. I think they got some holes here and there. They have invested a lot of early picks recently in guys like Mekhi Becton, guys like Elijah Vera Tucker, left guard. I think they go ahead and just keep investing until they get this thing right, though. And I'm going to go with Broderick Jones, offensive tackle out of Georgia. This is a big, long, physical tackle, and I think he would be able to fit into kind of what they want to do as far as running the football. I know they do a lot of wide zone. That's not really Broderick Jones' game, but he can move. He can get out there a little bit, and I think he's just the best tackle on the board, so I'm going to go with him at 13 for the Jets.
Yeah, I have 14 New England. I'm kind of going back and forth right now, Brian, on wide receiver or corner, but just drafting wide receivers in New England is just not a thing. You can probably speak more than I can with some of the wide receivers they've picked recently. So, I'm leaning more towards corner for New England, and they have a couple pieces they might be losing anyway.
Yeah.
So I think you go corner and you go Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. His dad was an NFL, legend pretty much in Pittsburgh. To Pittsburgh probably hating that I'm taking this, they're at 17, I'm at 14. But this guy he's an athlete. He could play anywhere on the field, I feel like. and he's have shown flashes and the twitch that he has on the field. And this is another physical guy that, I mean, he just blanket wide receivers. I mean, he does. I mean, New England gets these corners, I think, and just keep building on these corners they always get and somehow find in the draft.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. He's a corner and they need a corner.
Yeah.
And Bill Belichick likes corners. He'll spend money on them too. And this guy can play man and zone. However, he is an outside guy.
Yeah.
That's where he's going to have to play, especially in a defense like Belichick's that runs a lot of man. So, yeah, Joey Porter to the New England Patriots. I got Green Bay on the clock at 15, and I am going to maybe go off the beaten trail a little bit here and pick Darnell Washington from Georgia to go play in Green Bay. I like this fit because, man, look, they got guys to run the foot. They got guys to run the rock out there. And if they transition from Aaron Rodgers or they don't, Darnell Washington could be a guy that could really help this offense, both with the running the football and give Rodgers a giant pass catcher that can light up the field in the red zone and really help this team run the football better and block better in general. So Darnell Washington to the Green Bay Packers.
I think some people are going to come after you, Brian, on that one. I mean, Michael Mayer's there. I mean, you believe the production speaking a lot more for one guy than the other, but
I like him, man. I think Michael Mayer's a good player. I think he's a little bit more of a proven player, but Darnell Washington just has that upside, man. And I think they like to run the ball in Green Bay. They did last year. And if they transition from Rodgers and really want to run the football, I think that would help Jordan Love. So,
okay. I'm at 16 with Washington. I mean,
I don't know what you're going to do here, man.
Oh, I know what I'm doing here. I locked and loaded. Their defense is lacking. I understand they got a new offensive coordinator. It's kind of, they could go wide receiver here. So I'm going wide receiver corner, but I just lean more towards corner. And I mean, Cam Smith kind of showed out at the combine and had a pretty productive season with South Carolina. I mean, he showed very, to me, impressive recovery time. Like, he gets beat, he recovers and chase downs the wide receiver. And this is another guy. I mean, he's good in space. He can close the space. I mean, and downhill, he makes some big plays running downhill. So I think Cam Smith, what he showed at the combine, he can maybe sneak up some boards. I mean, 6 feet, 188. He's not the tallest and biggest corner, but Washington, I think, just desperately needs a corner.
Yeah, I think that's a good fit for what they want to do over there. They do play a lot of man defense and zone. They do both. So Cam Smith, man, corner, good at it. He did very well at South Carolina. And like you were saying, he's not the most physically imposing guy, but good technique. I think he did well for himself at the combine. It wasn't necessarily jumping off the screen at you good, but it was good. It did well for his draft stock. So I got Pittsburgh on the clock here at 17, and I'm not exactly sure what I want to do here because they need a lot. I know they need offensive line and some interior line help on the defense. I also know they need a linebacker.
There's some good wide receivers on the board of your Pittsburgh. Do you even think about it?
I don't, man, and that's what's here. You got wide receivers. You have Robinson on the board. I don't really like that at all, obviously, because Najee Harris. But Brian Brzee, I think that could be a potential fit here.
Yeah, you have Hayward's there, so you're teaming him up with a younger talent that can help him.
Yeah, that's true. Trenton Simpson might be a good fit for them. Man, what do I want to do here? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go. Never mind, I'm not.
You're not going to go there?
I was going to go Peter Skronsky, but that's not exactly a fit for what they want to do in Pittsburgh. Okay, I'll go Brian Brzee. Go ahead and get them that potentially dominant interior guy to team up with Cameron Hayward because they did struggle this year to stop the run. Even with all the talent they have on that D-line, they just need to fix a couple spots here and there that are not living up to par, and just so they can get the most out of Hayward and TJ Watt. I think go ahead and get Brian Brzee and help their pass rush because that's what he will do. He'll bring some pass rush from the interior. So there we go. Brian Brzee to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like that a lot. I have Detroit again. It's crazy. And, I took my corner with this first pick, and I'm staying on the defensive side with Detroit. Their offense, surprised a lot of people this year. I think they have a lot of pieces there. And I think you can wait later in the draft and get some of this offensive pieces. I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but that's just their offense is pretty darn good to me.
It's ready to go.
So, I mean, I've been looking, kind of what they needed. Me taking that corner, and what the board's looking like. I'm kind of like Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. So you've kind of hit it on our GM podcast. They're going to lose some linebacker pieces. And this guy showed out at the combine. I understand watching his tape, you got to kind of look for him sometimes. And where is this guy? But, this guy, it could be anywhere, in the box, in the slot, off the edge, deep safety. Clemson moved this guy around. And that's why you're kind of playing, where is this guy? I just think his ability to move around the field, this is a guy Detroit can kind of desperately needs on that defensive side. They can just play anywhere they kind of need him to. This guy's 6'3", 225. And during the combine, we seen this kid, he's got some wheels on him.
Yeah.
I think Detroit, this is kind of a steal sitting here at 18.
Yeah, I completely agree. Trenton Simpson's a guy who can play in space. He can drop into zone drops, and I think he'd be a nice pairing to what they have on the D-line, shoring up that middle of the field and coverage. I got Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 19, and this is another difficult team because what direction do they go?
Kyle Trask is their guy.
Apparently, I don't believe that.
Yeah,
this might be a rebuilding year because I know they got a bunch of dead cat from Tom Brady still. So, you want to go BPA here, best player available, and just go ahead and embrace that rebuild that's on the way. Okay. I'll go, well, he's not exactly a fit. I will go, I'll go, oh man.
It's tough right here,
It is, man. This is tough. This is a tough spot in the draft, too.
I'm looking at Seattle right here, kind of seeing what you might take from me, and it's tough even for what I'm kind of looking for.
Yeah, because I know Tampa Bay needs edge. They need, and obviously a quarterback too. And
they can do a corner too.
Yeah, they need a corner. Physical guys, and I know they still run that cover 2 and zone drops. And I was sitting here looking at Keely Ringo, but this is a guy you want to play in man coverage.
And there's kind of me and you both. Looking ahead at Seattle, we both kind of need an offensive guard, and just at this point, there's not a guy you want to kind of reach for there.
No, you'd be reaching for sure if you took a guard at this point in the draft. I know there's a good player at center that you can maybe get away with taking here in John Michael Schmitz, but I wouldn't force that, man. Golly, this is a tough way the board fell for Tampa, because you would, be all right going with maybe a Broderick Jones or a Miles Murphy, or if you fell all the way down here. I will just go ahead and pick Clark Phillips out of Utah. That is a little bit of a reach here, but I think he's a little bit better of a fit for Tampa Bay and what they want to do more than Keely Ringo is. So lock Clark Phillips in.
Man, I'm in a tough spot with Seattle still. We needed, I got the edge, or you drafted the edge, and Wilson at 5? That kind of shores up that edge they need. Now I need a guard, but the only other positions I can kind of think I can go is without a guard is, do they kind of dip in and get another wide receiver and kind of help Geno, or do you think they maybe lean towards getting another young corner? Because I'm looking at Georgia, and Ringo's kind of maybe it's the guy that can go there, but it's just, he's on down the corner list at this point, and it's kind of, you don't want to spend a first-round pick there.
That's the same deal, too, because that's a cover 3 system they run there, and it's not a
good fit.
Great fit. Ringo can play the cover 3 because he's athletic and long, but you really would like man for him.
Man. We need a D tackle, too, but there's just how the board fell back. It's getting rough back here for some of these teams.
Well, it could go receiver.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards. Jordan Addison, it's kind of, I guess, Tyler Lockett there.
A little redundant of a skill set, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brian Branch.
Yeah, you could, but I mean,
Yeah.
Jackson Smith-Njigba at Ohio State is one guy I'm looking at, and just Seattle bringing him in is kind of a good fit, kind of what I'm looking in. You think I'm reaching here with this, or?
No, I think John Michael Smith is a good, or Jackson Smith-Njigba. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
I think that's where I'm going to go. Smith and Jigba.
Slot.
Slot guy. They can move him and Tyler Lockett around and see what they can build up. Yep. I mean, this is a guy, he's an NFL starter. I mean, we've seen him with C.J. Stroud. This guy, I mean, it's fairly easy for him to just accelerate on the field and just blow by people and just full throttle go down the field. I know that's kind of what DK Metcalf does here, but you get DK on a slant and make this guy just go. I mean, he's only 6 foot and 198, but
he's not a burner.
He's not, but I just think with Seattle sitting here, this is the best player on the board for them to kind of go for.
Yeah. What's Tyler Lockett's contract look like?
That's true. How the board fails, Seattle's. I mean, you either reach on a receiver or you reach on a corner, I would be thinking. They could go tight end, but
Michael Mayer is available.
Yeah.
What you gonna do, man?
Could be one, man. I'm going to go Smith and Njigba, wide receiver. Give Geno some more weapons. You're going to pay him. I think you just build up this offense and see how much Geno can really do in it.
All right. Well, that makes my pick easy. I know where I'm going here.
Oh, yeah.
They need some help. They need help on that defensive side of the ball for the Chargers. Yeah. At 21 here. They need help.
Help us, Brian.
Couple different places here. I'm looking to see who all I got to work with. I know they need a D-tackle, but they might be able to address that a little bit later. I could go Gervon Dexter, but that is a little bit of a reach. I think I'm going to go Keely Ringo. Go ahead and pair a nice corner opposite of J.C. Jackson. And I think that's a nice little 1-2.
J.C. Jackson. Yeah.
There we go.
I like that pick. And hopefully he can, start over J.C. Jackson if he wants to play on the field. All right, Baltimore Ravens. This is kind of a tough one. I mean, am I drafting like is Lamar here? Am I drafting that he's not here? It's kind of tough. I mean, you just took the corner that I was, not going to lie to you, eyeballing at this spot because
you know what they need, man.
I do, but that corner is also another one, man. With Marcus Peterson more than likely out the building, bringing that corner in would have been nice, but Jordan Addison sitting here and with how their wide receivers have been talking so badly about them, I'm going Jordan Addison. I mean, he's failed, not really failed, but this is kind of where a lot of people are predicting him to go. Not to Baltimore, but in this range. Yeah. So I think Jordan Addison, easy pick to Baltimore. I think Baltimore fans will be excited. I know their wide receivers will be.
Yeah, you're not lying there. I think they would definitely be excited about that. Get a nice player to pair with Rashad Bateman. They need it. So I got the Minnesota Vikings up next, and their roster's actually pretty good shape here. I don't know. I think they keep riding with Kirk, obviously, and there's not a quarterback really on the board here that I could go with. Okay, I think you can get an impact player here, I think, to help out that defense that struggled last year. And this is the team that is transitioning into more of a Patriots-style defense with Brian Flores being the DC out there. And I think they'll need a guy that can play over the top and play one high. And I think Brian Branch can be that guy for them. I think that's a safety that can move around. This is one of my favorite players in the draft, man.
I'm sorry, Jackson.
And you tried. Brian Branch, one of my favorite players in the draft. He's a do-it-all guy. He can line up in the slot, line up out one high. He can play in the box. Good tackler. One of the best players in the class, if you ask me. Brian Branch to the Minnesota Vikings. That's a steal, too.
Yeah, I was hoping I was going to steal him with my pick right now with Jacksonville Jaguars at 24. I mean, their offensive side, we're good. And, where the board was sitting, that was a steal.
Yeah.
At safety that we needed. So, I'm sitting here now, and it's just like, man, Where do I
Jacksonville.
go?
I know where you go here, man.
I hear
I'm
you,
looking at
man.
him.
I'm looking too, man. I think, we're gonna need a corner. I know by the time the season starts, Griffin's more than likely is gonna get released, but there's just no corners at this point.
Yeah.
We killed them. Every team, it kills to have great corners.
It does.
Jacksonville re-signed Evan Ingram today. I don't go tight end here. I go offensive guard or offensive tackle. Northwestern guy sitting here, and it's way down here. I'm probably going to butcher his last name. Peter Sorocki. This guy, other than the arms, people have been kind of not so big on, but this dude's 6'4", 249. You got to protect Trevor Lawrence if you're Jacksonville at this point. This guy's explosive. He's cleaning guys out. It's an easy pick for Jacksonville. If he's sitting here.
Yeah, I agree. He's a good, easy mover. I think he'd fit along pretty good with what they're trying to do in Jacksonville. Okay, so I have the New York Giants up here at 25. And see, New York, they could go a couple different places here because they do need quite a bit. Oh, gosh, man. Yeah,
this board is getting rough.
Could you go tight end here? The Giants? I think you can go tight end here.
With how the wide receivers fell at this point,
I think that's a steal getting
Hyatt out of Tennessee is the only one for the Giants I would maybe entertain.
Or Josh Downs out of Carolina, but I don't really like either of them, man. I know the Giants need a guy at receiver, but I'm sitting here looking at Michael Mayer, man.
I understand.
That's a good fit. That's a really good fit, I think, for what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
He's a NFL prototype size, and he can do a little bit of everything. He's a threat in pass game for sure. He's demonstrated that time and time again. He's also a top blocker. I think he's just an all-around tight end, man. I think he would fit in well for New York. I think that could be a piece that could kind of put that offense over the top a little bit and give Daniel Jones a good target too. Sign me up. Michael Mayer to the New York Giants.
Well, that's the Cowboys. Woo.
Yeah, that would have been a good spot for him too.
Yeah.
Because they're going to lose out on Dalton Schultz. So there's some other tight ends on here. Don't be afraid to reach. They're good. I'm
kind of thinking of what CD Lamb kind of been speaking on and taking a wide receiver here. Michael Gallup, CD Lamb, that T.Y. Hilton, just played this year, kind of later in the year. It's just what wide receiver would you think Jerry would really fall in love with? It isn't their GM, it's Jerry.
Jalen Hyatt could be a guy to take the top off for that team. They don't really got that anymore.
Yeah. I was looking at Zay Flowers, but CD Lamb does everything that he would kind of be brought in for.
Yeah.
Bijan Robinson's one that's kind of just seems like a Cowboys thing, but I'm going to go Jahan Hyatt out of Tennessee. This guy, 6 foot, 180 in weight. His vertical was, let me see. Look. He's got a good his vertical was 3.4.5 vertical, and his 40 was a 4.3. This guy is somebody the Cowboys can get to kind of help CD Lamb and kind of maybe push more help towards the other side, maybe.
Okay.
But I'm liking this guy.
All right. Jalen Hyatt?
Yeah, he was a track guy also.
He's fast, bro.
I think that's kind of what the Cowboys need at this point.
Somebody take the top off. I can see it. I got the Buffalo Bills here at 27, and I know who I'm going to go here, but it hurts. It hurts, man. It hurts my soul. It really does. It's a luxury pick, and I know there's going to be people out there who do not like this pick. But
don't do it.
Bijan Robinson to the Buffalo Bills, man.
Come on, man.
Oh, my gosh. I would hate to see that. For him fall to them, man, he's a good player. Gosh, someone's going to get still with him.
They are.
They really are.
Do you think it's going to be Buffalo, man? You have James Cook there. And he's kind of showed out near the end of the year, but, this guy's just, he's better.
Bro.
He's different. Yeah.
He's different. He could be a game changer for that offense.
He would.
You line up in the nickel against Buffalo, because you out to a lot of times. They spread the field, and they got Josh Allen. You're talking about having an account for him and Josh Allen. Yeah, dude. That's hard.
Man, that's a good pick. I mean, you can't hate on anywhere he goes. You really can't. Just the type of player he is. I'm sitting here at 28 with Cincinnati. And, I mean, there's one guy I'm kind of looking at here. And he's kind of been getting a little bit more love. Kind of. It's just, I think Cincinnati has to go here. And I'm thinking Lucas Van Ness, the edge, kind of gets more pressure. They're going to need it. I mean, definitely with these playoff runs, they're going to have to get after the quarterback. This is just a big guy. I mean, 6'5", 269.
He kind of showed out at the combine.
He did show out.
Good.
And the only thing that kind of hurt his stats is Iowa's one of these colleges just believe veteranship should play over kind of skill. And I think this is kind of, I mean, you could put him anywhere. He's kind of a playmaker. He don't have to play the edge. You could put him on the inside. I mean, he had 7 sacks. So I think this is a good pick for them just to kind of shore up this defensive lineup. And he kind of, like I said, you can move him anywhere you want to on it.
Yeah. Okay. So you going Lucas Van Ness to the Cincinnati Bengals. That puts me with the Saints on the clock.
Hey.
Oh, man. Well, they signed Derek Carr today.
They did.
$100 million guaranteed. So I would assume they would be looking for some guys to help Derek Carr on that side of the ball
I
here.
agree with that.
And I see somebody I like for them.
Because they're losing. I mean, what? Michael Thomas is definitely out the building. Jarvis Landry, I mean, you don't even think about bringing him back, do you? If you're the Saints? No way, right?
But Chris Olave. I like Luke Musgrave here. This tight end that it's kind of a little bit more quiet during the season and everything. People were aware of him. He's just that kind of talent, but he really played well at the Senior Bowl and put himself on the map for a lot of teams. And I think this is a guy that could be a dynamic weapon in the passing game for that New Orleans Saints offense. And this is a guy that can really help Derek Carr. So I'm going to go Luke Musgrave to the New Orleans Saints.
Okay, I hear you. You don't even think about wide receiver there with me saying you lose those pieces?
Musgrave's good, man. I think he could be a weapon, and they need a tight end.
Oh, you have Taysom Hill.
Okay. This is a different guy than Taysom Hill.
Yeah. No, I'm sitting here with the Eagles. God, I kind of wish you didn't,
Here's Taysom Hill.
Take Bijan Robinson.
Thanks, man.
To the Eagles. I think that's a steal if he falls to 30.
Who you got?
The Eagles. I said it'd be a steal, if you didn't take Bijan Robinson right there. They'd sure up their backfield with paying kind of a cheap deal. And I got Devin Witherspoon with the 10th pick. And this defensive line is kind of getting tore up this season. Not this season, but this offseason. A lot of those pieces are going to be leaving.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
what you going to do here, man?
You don't need nothing on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you go Gibbs at running back if you really, really, really love him. But it just
kind of redundant what they have in Kenneth Gainwell. Granted,
and
Gibbs is a lot better.
They believe in him, though, is what I kind of been getting the word around town. Yeah, it is. And then there's the edge out of Notre Dame, but I just think this is too early for him.
Foskey, yeah.
And then they're going to bring
what about
back
Zay Flowers?
You think the Eagles go another wide receiver? I mean, they do have to replace Quez Watkins.
Yeah, they're losing them. I mean,
so Zay Flowers, I think, can go into that Quez. I mean, you might be onto something there, Brian. I mean, at the combine, he showed out.
He did. He had a great combine.
I mean, and he's going to be coming in and playing the slot role. I mean, he's 5'10", 177. That's, I mean, at his height, that's where you want to be.
You could go what's his name? The center, John Michael Schmitz. You can go with him because Kelsey's probably going to be out the door.
But I think last year drafted a center, to be honest with you.
Did they?
I believe. You can check me real quick and I can kind of not go on a rant, but I'm pretty sure they drafted his kind of not replacement, but a guy that can look up to him. But I'm leaning towards Zay Flowers right now just because.
Yeah,
his 40-yard dash.
Cam Jurgens in the second round last year. So.
That's what I was leaning towards. So I remember hearing that if he retired this year, it wasn't that big of a deal because they kind of already had his replacement.
Okay, I see that.
But I mean, his 40, what was it? I mean, he cracked, I think it was like a 4.3 Zay Flowers did. 4.4 at least, I can say. I want to say 4.3. But this is just another guy the Eagles add. I mean, the rich get wealthier. You add Zay Flowers to the slot, and then you have your corner. I mean, that's 2 young guys on both sides of the balls that kind of can get in this great team. Just like I said, the rich get richer. Take Zay Flowers here with the Eagles.
Yeah, that's a dynamic offense right there. Just make it a little bit more dynamic, I guess, and kind of provide an insurance policy in case, God forbid, something happened to A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith. But I like it. Zay Flowers to the Eagles.
Yeah, a good pick.
Right. So this is the last pick, thanks to Miami and all of their shenanigans. Yeah. I have one more pick than Christian in this one. And I got the Kansas City Chiefs here, and oh man, this is looking me right in the eyes.
Oh, you also got to think McCole Hardman is probably gone, and some of their other wide receivers. Well, there's some better stuff on the board than wide receiver.
There is, and I'm sitting here looking at Josh Downs. That would be a good player to fit what they need. I know he's a better player than Juju, so in my opinion, he really is.
You don't think about offensive tackle after hearing the news we heard today about Orlando Brown?
Yeah, I do think about that too. They do need pieces here and there, but man, some just look me in the eye, and I'm just. DeJuan Jones looks like a good player that can fit for them, that can replace Orlando Brown.
That's what I was looking at.
I'm looking at Jahmyr Gibbs, bro, and he's just like, that would be a really nice player for that offense. Jahmyr Gibbs is not a great fit for every offense, but that offense, he is. I know they got Isaiah Pacheco, so I don't think they spin that pick, but man, he's a good fit for that offense. I'll just go ahead and lock in DeJuan Jones, man.
I think this is a steal. I think he might go even higher than this.
DeJuan Jones?
Yeah, I really do. I'm going to look at everything we kind of did real quick and kind of look at the board. Yeah, just see Anthony Richardson at 9 for Carolina. I mean, I love it. I think their coaching staff get Anthony Richardson in there. That's going to be nice. Definitely in that division, they could easily win this division after drafting a guy with his kind of raw talent he has.
Yeah. I really like the Miles Murphy pick, Tennessee. They were able to get not quite a blue chip. I think he's a little bit of a tier down from the other edges, but that's a really good player, and I think that's a nice building block going forward for Tennessee. And he's a freak, man. He's an athletic freak, and I think he shores up some of the fundamentals and gets a little bit better in his with his pass rush moves. I think he could be quite dynamic long term, paired with Jeffrey Simmons in there. So I like that pick.
Yeah.
Any other ones stand out to you?
I mean, the Bears, even though we traded down, I feel like they get the player they kind of want and need, even after trading down they gain some picks and just get the player they needed to end up with anyway.
Yeah, I like that. That's perfect situation for Chicago. And who else, man?
Trenton Simpson, when I drafted him to Detroit, I mean, that's another one
You like that?
I love that pick for them.
Yep. I like Brian Branch to the Vikings.
Yeah.
I think Brian
that's
Flores
a complete
will know
team.
how to use him, man. I like Darnell Washington to Green Bay, too. I like Joey Porter to the Patriots.
Yeah.
But
Jordan Addison to Baltimore, I think that's a nice pick for them. They have to go wide receiver. I think at this point there's not a choice.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the mock. Anything else you want to add, Christian?
And I mean, like I said, this is our first mock. I mean, I'm loving what we kind of did here. It might not match everybody else, but this one, to me, it looks good. I mean, it really does.
Yeah, this is the first mock, and we've been really digging in these players the last couple of weeks, getting familiar with all the guys. And, there's still some more work to be done, but there's... You know how it is. Every year, the draft board changes so much. As you get closer to the draft, you get more information with, combine just happening, seeing guys test, guys move up and down a little bit. And then free agency hits, and then you kind of see what each team really needs.
Yeah, totally agree.
They address certain positions in free agency, and then they leave giant voids in other positions, and you just kind of, well, I guess they're going to address that in the draft. So that will help us kind of narrow our selections a little bit more going forward. But in general, my thoughts on this class, man, I think they have a really deep corner class and tight end class, man.
100%.
It's a really good corner and tight end class. And linebackers, they got some good linebackers. It's not quite as deep, but the receiver class, in my opinion, disappointment this year. The quarterback class is underwhelming, I would say. All of them got warts. There is a very dynamic running back in this class, Bijan Robinson. I think is the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley was coming out. So whoever gets him, I mean, that is a steal. But also nice offensive line.
Yeah, definitely.
They got a good bit of tackle, especially early on. Hopefully one of them can make it to 51. But I doubt that will happen. There's also a lot of good players still on the board here, man. And
No, definitely is.
Jahmyr Gibbs, beast. Antonio Johnson, safety out of Texas A&M. I like him too. Henry To'oTo'o. Man. John Michael Schmitz, Darnell Wright, Dalton Kincaid. Surprised Nolan Smith didn't sneak in here, man. After he had a great combine.
Yeah.
I was thinking about
where
it.
teams kind of picked and what they needed.
Yeah. Well, I think that concludes the pod. Thank everyone for listening. Thank everyone for all the support. This will conclude the pod today. I hope everyone has a great day. See you next time.
Peace.